Hello, everyone. Good morning, at least for me, in LA. Today, we have one guest, my friend Alex Poscente. That Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Thank you for accepting the invite and participating in this. I'm pretty excited for our conversation today. Um, I mean, I want to focus especially on kind of your perspective on kind of new generation of talent. We can call it Gen Z or just kind of young talent entering the job market. I mean, you're part of that group, but also you work with a lot of people, and I'm sure you have a lot of interesting things to tell us. But first, you have p- plenty of project going on, and Ivy Insights is the one most connected with kind of this idea of Gen Z talent, but also Dell Media, what you're studying now. I'm sure will be interesting for people as well, because it's very Web3 related. But let's start from the beginning, and yeah, tell us a little quick intro about yourself.
Um, yeah, sure. So I guess I will start with talking a little bit about Ivy Insights and why it was founded and the story behind it. And then we can kind of go from there and talk more
Hmm.
about Gen Z talent. But during the also hi, it's Alex Poscente. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I just graduated from Wharton a few months ago and moved out to Los Angeles. During the pandemic, I was going into my senior year of college and I noticed this really intense level of job insecurity among either recent graduates or soon to be grads. Um, and these are the people that theoretically are, like, the smartest in the United States. They go to top tier institutions and they were deciding like what Netflix show to binge watch because their internship was canceled or their job was totally erased. And at the same time, companies were looking for ways to kind of cut costs and remain flexible, capture market share. It's a really natural alignment between two cohorts of really high potential individuals. One was a subset of students and Gen Z people who have that digital edge from being digital natives. And the other was from the corporate side, right? Like you wanted to grow your company, but you also wanted to save money. So it's like, why don't we just connect the two? So in essence, Ivy Insights builds teams of high caliber students and graduates to go work with companies around the world. And this is anywhere from, freelance services and strategic consulting or growth or finance or software development. The idea is really top down. So a company will come to us and say, hey, Alex, we have this one problem or this one like project we need to be made. Can you build us a team? And then my team will basically go through these hundreds of students we have per semester who work at any given point in time, and we'll build the strongest team to solve that problem or to build that project. So yeah, we've been running for about a year and a half so far. Within the first year, we broke six figures revenue, which was really validating. This was my senior year of college. So there was this like really nice market fit. We're in a few different countries and have worked with public companies, private companies, startups. It's been really amazing to see, this like young talent moving into the workforce and really just engaging with huge projects and big ideas. And yeah, incredible. I can talk about some projects we've done. I can talk about, um, working with Gen Z,
No, I mean,
whatever you want.
mhm. Yeah, well, we'll get there in a second. I just wanted to kind of you to give this kind of quick introduction of IV Insight so everyone has some context. But let's maybe go back a bit because I mean, although you're still pretty young, you already have a big track record of starting projects and entrepreneurship. I think, yeah, I mean, you started your first company like at 14, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So actually, when I was really young, before I was in school, I used to sell my parents things while they were at work. Because I couldn't go to preschool yet, so I would have these like daily garage sales, and they didn't know until I sold our gas barbecue for $20, and that is a true story. When I was 10, I started a summer camp for kids. Um, yeah, my parents had told us that, we were going to save up for a clutches. So I was like, okay, what do I have? What resources do I have? What market do I have? And I started a summer camp for kids that ended up netting about 4K every summer. Um, yeah, and then when I was 13, I applied for this international youth advisory board with Thomas Franchise, and started consulting when I was in eighth grade. Applied with like a couple SWOT analyses and investment recommendations, and looking back, just like very ambitious kid. And when I was in high school, I started this art company selling student art at market price to incentivize, you know, equating passion to profit. And you don't have to be a starving artist, you just need to know how to sell yourself. And then in college, worked on an augmented reality, and then now I'm here. Ivy Insights.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looks like kind of the CV or kind of the resume of a 40-year-old and all that. 23-year-old. And yeah, and also to make it even more interesting, you actually kind of went to school for kind of acting and filmmaking, and you're also an actress, right? So not just kind of business and entrepreneur, but you're also into movie industry, right?
Right. Yeah. So, in high school, I've like always had throughout my entire life this contemporaneous interest in both the arts and entrepreneurship. So in high school, I went to this conservatory where I spent half of every day studying art. So it was acting and filmmaking, and that was throughout all of high school. And then in college, I was like, okay, cool, did the whole acting like art thing. I have a good grasp on, what I'm good at, what I'm interested in. I'm gonna do the business thing. And then I went to Wharton undergrad. So I attended UPenn and just studied business for all 4 years. And that's why I'm in LA, because now I can kind of have
Hmm.
access to both, the business scene as well as the art scene. It's like a very fun place to be.
Hmm. And also kind of your most recent project, Dull Media, kind of blew together in a way. But we'll get to Dull Media later. um, well, I mean, and especially since you're into acting and filmmaking, what would you say? This might not be an easy question to answer, but what's kind of a movie or a movie character that, in your opinion, describes well kind of your generation and generation of talent?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. Um, so one movie character that describes a generation of talent. What about like Theory of Everything? Let's just go big. The one about,
Okay.
the genius, like hero's journey.
Hmm.
So, I mean, like kind of putting it on a pedestal, but it's first thing came to mind. I vote for our generation, actually, like a lot in terms of what we can build and what we can solve. Um,
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit. So, I mean, in IV Insights, you work with a lot of very talented young women and men when working with big companies. How would you kind of compare your generation to kind of older generation? It doesn't need to be good or better or worse. Just how kind of in terms of perspective or in values do you think the next generation of professionals will be different from the current one?
mhm. I think a lot of the difference lies in the motivation. So I think older generations might be more motivated for, personal security and comfort, whereas I think our generation optimizes for impact. I think that we inherited and were raised within narratives that were focused around, like the world is on fire, a lot of racial, gender, sexual inequity, things like surrounding inherited wrongs or political wrongs or social wrongs that need to be resolved or fixed or at least like helped. And I think that bleeds over into the way that we work and the way that we see the jobs we take on. I think that the generation that I'm in is much more focused on these big picture problems, and starting new things, working on different projects instead of, the typical 9 to 5, especially with COVID. I think it exacerbated, you know, that same trend where you don't have to have like a 9 to 5 in office job. You can work remotely and you can be anywhere in the world and you can live with whoever you want. Um, so I think that there is a lot of onus on individual to do whatever they want because they can do
Mhm.
it from wherever they want. You know what I mean? And they can choose whatever cause. But I think people are much more cause oriented.
Yeah, that's interesting. And one thing I was thinking about is that kind of this balance between flexibility and security you mentioned, kind of uh, making an impact or having kind of having a comfortable life. I think this is kind of the differences between the two. and especially regarding flexibility and looking at your career. I mean, you do acting, you start companies, you do a bunch of stuff, and I think this I like this new idea of kind of multi-thread careers. So I think
Mhm.
for a young or past generation, it's mean careers like a single line. You go from one point to the other. You try to go up the ladder, so maybe a line that goes up, ideally. And but I think more and more people want to have kind of multiple kind of careers at the same time. So multiple
Totally.
threads that they follow in parallel. So you're doing acting and entrepreneurship at the same time, and multiple companies. Um, so yeah, what do you think about kind of that idea of now our careers being actually multi-threaded and not just one kind of single um road?
Mhm. Well, I don't wanna, like, over glorify some of the trends because I actually don't know how productive some are. For instance, retention or staying with the job for too long. There used to be the standard of at least 2 years, and I kind of that's whittled down to at least 1 year, right? Like, staying in a company for at least 1 year, and then you can pivot because it shows, that you're committed, but even then, I don't know if that's necessarily good, the wanting to switch careers all the time. I know it's 100%, like, more fun and people wanna do it, and also, I think we have mobility too, and the other thing is, I don't think it hurts. So, okay, I'm gonna talk about the parts of it and then the positive. So it's like, the negative would be it could show that you're not committed to a certain industry, or maybe you lack focus or attention, yeah, and you're not super serious about your career. That could be the negative drawback to doing, like, a few or, like, pivoting a bunch of times in a short amount of time. Um and then the positive would be that, you have a lot of passion, you're excited by the prospect of learning, you wanna grow, and you have transferable skills, right? If someone codes as a software developer and works in consulting and has tried the private equity route or something like that, they're so hireable because they have, like, this strategic analytical mind that can be applied to different fields and be successful in it. Um, whereas, if, let's say, I feel like if you kind of switch between the exact same job, it might not be as good of a sign, right? Like, if you just go from investment bank to investment bank, or company to company that's all within the same industry, it might not be as productive. So I think it'd be a good thing and a bad thing. Um, but obviously, like, I think optimizing for happiness is all anyone can do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it is related to kind of what our cultural norms are. So we see kind of longevity as the a success metric. So if you stayed, or at least older generations, if you stayed longer in a company, it means you're more successful. So the longer you stay, the better it will be. And I mean, it's not necessarily true. So changing
Right.
companies might not have a bad reason. I think a different way of looking at it, and now very present in the Web3 world and DAOs and all that, is that a lot of people don't have just a job anymore. So this idea of a full-time job and you being fully committed to just one employer all the time, all days, it's becoming um, some people are kind of questioning that. So the kind of having
Totally.
working for multiple projects and multiple jobs with kind of different levels of commitment.
Right.
And a bit like we have the trend of the polyamorous trend, we might have the poly
Polygamy.
jobs, poly jobs. Yeah,
I feel like
good.
the other thing with that's such a good point, and the other thing I think it's because, like, okay, so our access portal is all through computer, more or less, right? Like, it's all
Mhm.
coming from the same place with these remote jobs that people are taking on. I think it has something to do with the need for, like, extra stimuli, right? Like, if it's all coming from the same port, you need, like, other versions of that experience. Oh, that's, like, super monotonous and boring. So I feel like people just need more stimuli to stay engaged and excited about what they're doing and working on.
Mhm. And that
Otherwise,
actually might be a solution to what you were saying. So people, especially younger people, have the needs for more stimuli and to new kind of experiences and to grow and learn more quickly. And it's hard to do that if you're like for 5 years in the same company. But if you're actually doing work for multiple companies at the same time, it might help you stay longer in each of them because you can still learn from other sources and stay committed to that companies for longer.
right. Right.
And but I mean, what do you feel about kind of the people, the students, and the work in your team that do the consulting projects with IV Insights? What do you think um, they want? So, do you think they're looking for a nice, safe job after this, or what, or do they have kind of this same opinion? Because I mean, we're talking about this, but it's more. Do you know specific cases?
Mhm, mhm. In terms of just, like, picking up on general trends, so
Hmm.
we recruit from top-tier institutions, right? So it's like the idea is that it's already pre-vetted talent before they even come to us, they got into the school because 'cause they're really exceptional for something, right? So they tend to have a more pre-professional approach to post-grad. Like, a lot of people we work with, like, will probably go for the 9 to 5 at least for a couple of years because that's the natural pipeline. What I've seen though is in having these students come work with us, for a few months, like during the semester, in the way that the teams are actually structured, company will come to us, we'll build the project, and for about 2 to 3 months, we'll have a team of around 3 to 4 people, and this team will all work together on random industries. We've had recurring consultants, um, and we have had consultants who, after they finish their term, they're like, "Whoa, put me on another team." And I see with the people who come and work with us, I think it plants like a little seed of you can be the beauty of the business is like you can be working with one company in one industry, and then 1 month later you're in a completely different one. And that's the most fun part about consulting or working in like service industry and just building things for random spaces. So a lot of the people who come through actually change their future career paths to either work with a startup or work in a consulting firm to have this variation in different industry exposure. Um,
Yeah.
which is kinda cool because,
Hmm.
you know, like, you're just exposing, people to different pathways.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, especially if you go to those schools and those pipelines, like you mentioned, I mean, a lot of people, and I speak for myself here. You don't actually think you have much choice, so that's what you have to do to be successful. Because that's what other people, other successful people did, was follow that path. But maybe working with Ivan Insights, they see a different path that might work better for them.
Right,
But
right.
changing gears a bit, I was thinking, I mean, we were talking about the differences between two generations and kind of previous or the current world of work and how the future world of work can look like. And before going into the future and trying to explore how it will look like in the, in a few years, I mean, have you encountered what kind of challenges, obstacles have you encountered? Because I mean, you're um, young, very young woman trying to start businesses, working with other people. So, have you found some obstacles, challenges, and a clash between generations?
Um, in terms of just generally?
Yeah, generally, for example,
Okay, right.
yeah, generally based on your experience, but that can be extrapolated. So it can be, I mean, just being trying to raise money or trying to for the companies that you worked for, the AR one. So being kind of employed or hired by someone, or
Mhm,
at IV Insights trying to sell kind of work to corporate companies.
mhm, mhm.
Look at you being kind of a young businesswoman.
Yeah, honestly, I have I haven't faced a ton of, challenge or obstacles related to my gender or my age. Like, these are things that I feel like I can kind of use and leverage to my advantage with the company because like it's just me, and I just want to build things and I don't really think about that as being an obstacle. I just will do whatever I say I'm gonna do, like I'll figure out a way to do it. And um I think that the main obstacle with I think the main obstacle that I've kind of faced and seen is when you run a business that's so people focused, there's always a level of variability that you're never going to be able to A, control or B, estimate. So, um, yeah, people can be so strange and like unreliable. uncontrolled, where it's like you're not pushing a software that's not going to change. Like you're pushing a service that needs to be as similar to other projects as possible. So the obstacles I've had in the past would be, certain individuals having to, take, for instance, like time off because of like medical leave or something like that. So we have to replace the person, or time constraints for other reasons. I haven't luckily experienced super, super like negative like people experience this because the vetting process is rather intense. But the human condition is really hard to guess what's going to happen to individuals, emotionally, physically, anything. Um, Other than that, I think the other, I don't know. I think the main obstacle is just like,
I mean, it's good that you didn't find that much kind of visible obstacles.
yeah, I think the
It,
most
it's
fun,
it, yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
the most fun part about entrepreneurship for me is just like the game of it all, right?
Hmm.
Like for my entire life, I want to optimize for either social impact or environmental impact. Anything I start or touch like has to be revolved around one of those things. And it's just a game. It's like how can I build something that's relevant and meets the needs, and how do I sell it and position it, and can I communicate this well enough to where people want to buy in? It's like it's a really similar process in acting. It's like, okay, you're either talking to an investor or you're talking to an audience, and it's like, can I communicate this message and make them feel what I want them to feel and believe in what I want?
Hmm. I mean, I was just planning on asking you this in the end, but I'll take that the game idea and try to explore it further. So two ways. First of all, I think we'll speak about dull media because that's kind of, uh, I mean, you taking the game thing to a whole another level. But before that, and kind of thinking about what we do at Talent Protocol, which is help talented people like you kind of launch a token, and what launching that token can how that can help their careers. And it's basically the same idea. So you basically bringing gamification into careers. So people can now invest in you and kind of signal how much they believe in you, and they can win or lose, and you can kind of it has the same kind of gaming aspect. So how do you think tokens, personal tokens in particular, or other Web3 tools can help this new generation of professionals from, I don't know, in the next decade? Or what kind of good things can it bring to kind of careers and the future of work? What comes to mind?
Yeah. So um, I feel like the coolest part about Web3 is like this really be validated and supported by this like decentralized system of people who just believe in you. It's a new form of compensation, but it's just a new model of, like how one can succeed. So I think the coolest part, and I'll talk about Talent Protocol, not a paid advertisement, even though all you guys on this probably already know Talent Protocol. Um, I think the coolest part about it is like you're investing in individuals in the future in a way that I've never heard about before. It's like if someone just drops their Venmo, but it's professional and you can invest in them. And yeah, I just think it challenges old models of how you succeed, where it usually was like internal, outside of yourself, and prove it and either get hired for jobs or win awards. But this is like instead of it kind of reverses the whole process of going outward and inward, right? So it's like people pick up on you and then invest in either professionals or artists. I think the coolest part about like the tokenization or decentralized community is in the art space, because you can invest in songs and become owners of content and support like a space. Obviously, my background is a little bit biased with that, but yeah, it's like it's very empowering. That's the word I'm looking for. I think it adds a new level of empowerment.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And maybe how do you think it could help kind of young actors like you? So focusing on the tokens for arts, and I never thought actually about the actor actress use case yet. Maybe we can kind of plug in dull media after this.
Yeah.
But for you as an actress, how would you see yourself using a token or a token to kind of to help build you kind of that initial support you need?
So this is actually and this is a new project I'm working on called Dull Media. Um, and that's And we can talk more about it later. But the reason why it was actually started is because I was thinking about this question, like, okay, NFTs have hit visual, they've hit audio, they haven't really hit cinema, and they haven't really hit actors. I think a way that it could engage with acting specifically, and this is aside from my project, this is just generally, people could either sell, like masterclass tips or monologues that they really liked. They could be hidden NFTs, one single owner. They could sell certain scenes from plays or scripts that they were writing. I think there's a lot of like, basically just anything you could do within the space. It could be like diction exercises or things like that. You could also like invest in certain characters and shows, which kind of this bleeds into dual media a little bit. But um, yeah, it'll be really cool to see how actors engage with Web3 because it hasn't really happened yet.
Mhm.
It's not as like straight of a line, as
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
picture or a song.
Yeah, but tell us more about Dull Media and explain the project to us, because it's not helping. I mean, it's helping actors as well, but trying to decentralize the Hollywood kind of value chain model, cutting out
Right.
these intermediaries and make everyone an executive producer of a
Right.
future movie, right?
Totally. So, Dual Media, what we're doing is it's a Web3 production company where we're inverting all of the classic media making processes. So the way that we're starting is taking basically this NFT structure. And like I said earlier, like we found utility for pictures, right? Where you can like get into events or, you can have access to certain clubs or DAOs, whatever. There's utility for songs, but there hasn't been like deep utility for media in cinema form. So what I want to do with Dull Media, we're creating this choose your own adventure NFT movie. Okay, so we start with this intro scene that's dropped. People can invest. It goes to the top bidder, locked in after 2 weeks. That top bidder becomes an executive producer. And I want you guys to visualize this as I'm saying it. So it's like we have the first drop. 2 weeks later, 3 alternative universes are released, right? And the main character does something in one, like gets hit by a bus in one, abducted by an alien in another, falls in love in the last. Basically, within that 2 week period, the top bidder, there's going to be more or less like a price war. It could either be invested by DAOs or individuals, but after 2 weeks, it's locked in, and that becomes the second executive producer. And then from that one scene, let's say if main character falls in love, we have the intro scene, we have main character falls in love, and then 3 subsets, like 3 different channels are basically born from that one being locked in. And, it could be 3 alternative endings to the movie. So we have an intro, climax, and the ending is going to be bid upon in the same choose your own adventure style. And then after you have these 3 scenes that are totally distinct, couldn't have guessed it. It's just dependent on what people invest in and want to watch. Instead of starting from a movie and making a trailer, we now have this trailer and we have to build the rest of the movie. So the idea is to create the first ever decentralized gamified feature film. And it has an intro, climax, and the resolution. And what we're going to do is write all the scenes in between with the actual writer that we bring on board, and then shoot the rest of the film after we have these scenes like predetermined by the audience. And then the people who do become, the top bidders or the executive producers have a say in the writing room. So it's like this really fun new way of, one, marrying gaming with entertainment, but 2, like providing ownership to these individuals who wouldn't otherwise have access to, storyline or what's being told.
Hmm. Yeah, man. I think it's I really like kind of your idea. You already know about that, but I think what I like mostly is that in music we're already seeing kind of this idea of sharing. I buy kind of a sharing a song or an album, and I can kind of also get a share of the profits in the end. But here, more than just being kind of an owner of the movie, so that's part of being an executive producer. You're also influencing what the movie actually is. So for me, the way I kind of framed it is like, if you buy these NFTs, you'll be an executive producer of the movie. You can influence the where the movie goes and what the story is. Be credited in the end as kind of one of the owners. And yeah, I think this idea, just even I don't think people will even care if they make money out of it. It's just the idea of you being influencing a movie, being owner of it. I mean, you'll probably watch it 10 times and take all your friends to to the movies with you
Right?
just to say it's your
Just for the
movie.
last, yeah, or like as soon as your scene emerges, like the 2 to
Yeah,
5 minute
yeah.
clip.
Yeah,
Um,
this is the clip I chose. This is my clip, yeah. Yeah, but I think this is kind of the core of, Web3 is kind of this ch changing a mindset and people actually feeling owners of things, of content, of, in Talent Protocol case, they feel kind of partial owners of careers. They feel part of, someone else's career journey, and it makes all of these things much more collective and collaborative.
yeah, no, totally. And, the other thing to note is, so it starts with, a movie is probably gonna be made for TV, so, like, working with a streamer that we have yet to decide or lock in. But starts with a feature film, and then it's the same idea of, okay, how can we apply Web3 concepts of inverting the media making process? And the next place we'd move is probably TV shows tokenizing certain characters or plot lines and having the audience buy into outcomes, directions, interactions, and also moving into like commercial content, where we make, sell NFT, like fully white
Mhm.
labeled commercials. There's so much play, and it's really really exciting. And the other thing to note is, it's a female led team, and the social impact. So remember earlier, it was like environmental impact, social impact. The social impact element here is I really want to position women as like the core of Web3, and this is a way I believe I can.
Mhm. Yeah, really interesting. So, regarding Dell Media, which are your kind of next steps or your next challenges, and what kind of help do you need? Where do people can find Dell Media or kind of know more about it or help you if they can?
Yeah. So, um, I'd say that our next steps right now, it's really just talking to different talent. We're probably gonna we want to lock in a really, really, really amazing writer, which is the first step since this is like a systematic approach to creativity, right? We're creating this story built within the confines of like an actual equation of probability. So having a super smart, awesome writer, that's the next step. And the way that you or anyone can help is really just if the story resonates with you, if the trajectory, like in terms of entertainment, where entertainment could be going, or a female-led team, or whatever, or the Web3 element. If anything's exciting, just reaching out. I think the main thing is just having more people join the team. I've been a solo founder for the majority of my past ventures growing up, and I think there's a lot of power in a strong team. So yeah, I'd say if anyone's just interested, reaching out, probably on Instagram or what
Yeah,
should I drop something like just go ahead? I don't know. Just Instagram probably.
and we'll drop it afterwards in the tweet or if someone asks. So one kind of last question, kind of to end this
Sure.
wonderful conversation, which is, I mean, we talked a lot about difference between generations, and how do you envision the business world or kind of the world of work? So kind of the way we work and the way we, um, yeah, and the way our careers will be in the, I don't know, in 5 or 10 years, when kind of the you people like you and the people that you're working in IV Insights will actually be the founders and managers and the decision makers of the employers and the companies. How do you envision that world? What do you think will be different?
I think there's going to be a lot more focus on the environment. I think by like necessity, um, a lot of like pressure on carbon conscious is going to be super relevant and important. Um, Also, just like general equality. I want to say that there's just like I envision, and this is the opposite in me, but it's like always proactive movement forward, and that things will naturally get better. And I think that our generation um, will have a like really really big part in that. So yeah,
Hmm.
hopeful. And then I don't think remote
Hope,
work is ever going away. I think that's probably going to be an option forever.
yeah, uh, I think so too. I mean, I've been enjoying it in traveling the world, so
Oh my
hopefully
god,
it sticks.
yeah, definitely will.
But yeah, I think thank you so much for your time today, Alex. was a very interesting conversation, and although in 35 minutes, I think we touched in a lot of different subjects and a lot of interesting topics. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And it was wonderful speaking to
Yeah.
you. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
If today's episode inspired you, don't forget to follow us on your podcast app to never miss upcoming interviews. Also, if you would like to share your journey with us, you know any hidden talent, or you just want to keep in touch with us, you can find our email in the description. This podcast is sponsored by Talent Protocol, the Web3 professional network where anyone can invest in high potential talent.